My sister called me unsupportive, uninvited me from her wedding, and later sought my help after ignoring my warning about her cheating husband. I, 27 female, have lived with my sister, 30 female, for the majority of my life. When we were little, my sister and I used to plan how we were going to share an apartment when we both moved out of our parents' place. We always imagined living in some big city and how we would both have so much fun. It was just a dream when we were kids, but as we grew up, it seemed like something that we could make possible. But it all came to a crashing halt when we were in our late teens. She has always been my best friend, and I thought it was going to be that way our whole lives. Little did I know she didn't feel the same way. My parents had always been a little distant from me. I don't know what it was about, and I never tried to find out. They just had more in common with my sister, so I felt left out a lot of times. My parents and sister were academics, and I was all about the arts. I was an artist from a young age. I couldn't study for exams to save my life. My parents were very disappointed that I wouldn't be becoming a doctor like they had planned for me. I was bad at school, there's no other way to put it. I did try my best to appease my parents for as long as I could, but they were never satisfied with my hard work. I somehow graduated high school. My sister was already in medical school when I graduated high school. I decided not to go to college. My parents were not happy, and they left no chance to show their disapproval. My sister had never said anything about my career choices, life plans, or anything after I graduated, though she started to side with my parents. At first, I just thought that she wanted me to make better choices, and that it was for my own good, but I soon realized that she was doing it all to get on the good side of our parents. She was a college student, she needed things from them like money or whatever, and she didn't want to upset them by standing up for me, so she decided to gang up on me with our parents. I even asked her multiple times why she was being so mean to me. She just told me that I was making horrible life decisions and she would be sad to see me suffering in a few years. I don't know what happened to her when she went to college, but she came back a changed woman. Maybe she realized she didn't need her sister to be her best friend, and standing up for me in front of our parents would gain her nothing. I started ignoring her taunts and unsolicited advice too, just like I did my parents. It was something I was used to. I had done it for most of my teenage life, ever since my parents figured out that I wouldn't be able to make their dreams come true. I wasn't cut out to be a doctor. They just weren't ready to accept that. I felt awful about my sister not being on my side either, but eventually I got used to it and tuned out her remarks about my life too. It was all fine. I never took their taunts to heart. But then my sister went too far. She insisted that I move out of my parents' house and get a job. I was 18 at the time. My parents weren't forcing me out of their house or anything, but I knew I would have to get a job and move out eventually. My sister told them I wouldn't understand how the real world works until I lived in it, and they agreed with what she said. I just needed a little more time to get my life together, but I didn't get it. They probably thought that their threat of forcing me out of their house would make me want to go to college. I asked them to give me a little more time, but they told me that I had to move out in a week if I didn't go to college. I hated my sister at that moment. I packed all of my stuff and moved out in a week. I thought about where I could live. I knew my sister wouldn't help me out since she was the one who practically kicked me to the curb. Our plans of living together and having fun seemed like distant dreams at that point. It was disheartening that my parents would rather kick me out than let me decide my own future. I made do somehow in the initial weeks after I was kicked out. My parents texted me every other day to see how I was doing, but I never replied to any of their messages other than letting them know that I was alive. I didn't want them to make a scene or call the cops if I didn't text them back. They could be quite traumatic when they wanted to be. They left me alone for the most part, but eventually, they started demanding that I go over to their house for dinner or something. I refused for a while, but then I gave up. I told them I would have dinner with them. It had been quite a while since I saw them, and in all honesty, I missed them. I didn't care how they treated me, they were still my parents. I was doing fine in life anyway. I had a job that paid enough. I was sharing an apartment with 3 people, which wasn't ideal, but it was better than being homeless or being a burden on someone else. I was proud of what I had accomplished since I was kicked out. I was still doing art and had managed to sell a few of my paintings too. I thought it would be nice to see my family again and have dinner with them, but boy, was I wrong. As soon as I sat down at the dinner table, I knew it was an ambush. For one, my sister was there with a man I had never seen before. Secondly, they all started shooting questions my way like I was in a job interview instead of a family dinner. They asked me what I wanted to do with my life, and I told them that I wanted to pursue a career in the art world. They weren't very happy about that answer and kept telling me that I couldn't make a living out of it. Leave it to them to not even acknowledge what I have achieved since I moved out. They just fixated on my flaws and what I wasn't doing right. I told them that maybe I shouldn't come over anymore, but they insisted that I have dinner with them at least once a month. I Had no idea why they were so adamant about it since they couldn't even keep the grimace off their faces while I told them about my life. After a lot of back and forth, I finally relented and told them I would have dinner with them once every month, but they had to keep their opinions to themselves. They agreed non-committedly, and I knew that was the best I could get from them. After that, we started having dinner every month. Sometimes my sister would join, but we weren't on great terms, so we didn't talk much. My parents still freely told me what they thought about my life and how I was wasting it by doing whatever I wanted. I have tuned them out for so long that it wasn't even hard for me this time around. Everything was fine until my sister announced that she was engaged to that man she brought to the first dinner, and my parents' faces lit up. They congratulated her and gave them both hugs and kisses while I sat there looking confused. So my parents probably knew him for a while, but he was a stranger to me and I didn't know what to do. I gave him a small smile and congratulated them both. My sister surprised the hell out of me by hugging me. It had been so long since we behaved normally like sisters that it brought tears to my eyes. I told her that I was happy for her, and she beamed at me. She did look really happy. I talked to her fiancé all through dinner, and he was a nice guy. He was funny and always respectful. He didn't give me unsolicited advice about my life, so that was a plus. He even showed interest in looking at my art. I was happy that I would at least have one family member who wanted to see what I made. In the following weeks, he did show up at the cafe I worked at, and I showed him some of my art. He even brought my sister the next time he came, and we had a nice lunch. I was feeling pretty good about him and my sister. They made a great couple, and my sister and I have been closer since she showed interest in my art. They both came to some of the dinners at my parents' place too, so I got to know him more. I wouldn't say I knew him well enough to call him my brother-in-law, but I was starting to feel comfortable around him. I would definitely be able to pick him out of a crowd. Their wedding date was nearing, and I was so excited for my sister. She was asking for my help with wedding preparations too, which I loved. And then something awful happened. I was walking home from the cafe at night, and I saw my sister's fiancé making out with a girl inside his car in the parking lot. The parking lot was deserted, and the girl was definitely not my sister. I felt disgusted with him, and so horrible for my sister. I knew I had to tell her, but I was dreading it because she would be devastated. Before he could see me, I ran home thinking about how I was going to break the news to my sister. I decided to not beat about the bush and just rip the bandage off. I didn't want to say anything over the phone, so I decided to tell her at our next dinner 2 days later. She came with her fiancé, which made the whole ordeal harder, but I got her alone in the kitchen. I told her all about my encounter with her fiancé and how I saw him cheating on her. She listened carefully, and just when I thought she would go and talk to him, she started yelling at me for being unsupportive of her. I stared at her in complete shock, but she kept on talking. She said that I was jealous of her because she accomplished more in life than me. She was a doctor, and I wasn't anything, and now she got engaged while I didn't even have a boyfriend. I told her that was not the case, and I was just trying to tell her what I saw. She told me to shut up and asked her fiancé to take her home. I didn't say anything because I felt like an idiot at that point. I tried to help her, and she decided to make me the villain. She was ready to leave in a rage, but before she stepped out of the house, she told me that she didn't want to see me at her wedding and that I should stay away from her and her fiancé. I was the one angry at that point, so I told her that I wouldn't even come to her wedding if she begged me, so she could go right ahead and marry that cheating fiancé of hers. My parents told me to shut up and asked me to leave after they heard what I said. I left without saying anything else. A few weeks passed in a blur. I felt horrible for fighting with my sister. I also felt enraged at how she very quickly decided to believe her fiancé over me. I had never given her a reason to doubt me, so it was heartbreaking to see her so suspicious of me for no reason. She did get married to that douchebag, which I found out from the pictures my mom posted. I wasn't welcome to the wedding, so I stayed away while she made this huge mistake. I didn't contact her or anything, and neither did she. My parents weren't even talking to me after that, and they called to cancel dinner several times, so I got the hint that they didn't want me there. I thought everything was fine for about a month, and then my sister called me for help. She said that her husband was cheating on her and she needed a place to stay. I was honestly moving on from that whole drama that happened with her, but her call made me angry all over again. I told her that she should have listened to me when I warned her about this, and she can get help from someone else now because I don't want anything to do with her. I hung up the call even though deep down I knew I should have heard what she had to say. Am I the a-hole for not being supportive of my sister? Update 1. So a few days have passed since I got the call from my sister. I felt awful for turning her down. I was feeling petty, and I just wanted to scream "I told you so" in her face, but at the same time, I was feeling terrible about not helping her when she asked. I wanted to give her a call but kept putting it off because I didn't know what to say to her. I thought she would have moved out of her house, and was probably staying with our parents. I just felt like she didn't deserve my help since she had been horrible to me since we were teenagers. She never had my back, so why should I run to help her out at the first possible turn? She could figure it out herself because she was the one who decided to trust her cheating husband over her own sister. I kept telling myself that she wouldn't need my help to make myself feel better about the situation, but it was getting worse and worse. I wasn't even sleeping because I was always thinking about what she might be going through. After a week, I finally gave up and called her, but she didn't pick up. I figured that she was upset with me for not helping her, so I called my parents and asked them where she was staying, and they told me that she was staying with her husband. They sounded like they didn't know what was going on. I didn't think she would hide something like this from our parents, but they didn't sound very alarmed, so maybe she only told me. That made me feel smaller than ever because she was expecting me to help her, and I turned her down. I asked for her address from my parents, and they very reluctantly gave it to me. I warned them not to interfere in my life, but I didn't have time for their drama, so I hung up. I called my sister a few more times, but she wasn't picking up, and I felt immensely guilty. I was not the person who doesn't help others, but I had refused her help because I was being petty and small. And now, I felt like in a hole for turning her down. Update 2. Hey everyone, after I got my sister's address from my parents, I was nervous to reach out. She wasn't picking up my calls anyway, so I thought maybe she would kick me out if I showed up at her place. I had no idea why she was still staying with her husband when she knew that he was cheating. Maybe they resolved their issues and he wasn't cheating anymore. I highly doubted that, but I really wanted to think positively. I also didn't really want to get involved again after she had made herself clear that she didn't want me near her or her husband. I was actively trying to talk myself out of it because I didn't want to get humiliated again by wanting what was best for her. In the end, though, I decided that I could handle being humiliated if I got to help my sister out. One of us had to leave our ego behind, and I decided that I could be that person and take the first step. I went to her place, and her dear old husband answered the door. He immediately told me that they didn't want to see me, so I should go away. I already didn't like him, so there was no reason for me to be nice to him. I told him that I wanted to see my sister and not him, so he could take a walk for all I cared. He told me that I wasn't welcome in their home and I was embarrassing myself. My sister finally came out after a few minutes of him yelling at me to leave them alone. She looked shocked to see me there and asked her husband to let me in. He was hesitant about it, so she told him that we would just have a chat. He finally let me in after my sister pleaded with him for like a solid 5 minutes. I didn't like what was going on. She didn't look like herself. She was being too polite and complacent. It wasn't in her nature to be like this, so I felt weird seeing her like that. She was smiling really too much for no reason and behaving abnormally. She led me to a spare room and told me that she couldn't talk to me in this house, but she would meet me somewhere and tell me everything. Red flags were flying all over the place, so I asked her to come with me to my place. She told me no and asked me to leave. She did tell me to meet her in a week at a cafe, and she asked me not to call her. I wasn't feeling good about leaving her there, but I had to because she was practically pushing me out of her house. I took one last look at her and left. Update 3, so a lot has happened since I last posted. After about 5 days since my visit with my sister, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my sister, and she asked me to meet her at a cafe near my house in the evening. Before I could ask her anything else, she hung up. I was getting scared because she was acting really shady. She had never done anything like this. She was quite opinionated and never took from anyone, so I kind of knew that something bad was going on. I was at that cafe before time because I really didn't want to miss her. She came after about half an hour and was all fidgety for some reason. I asked her to relax and tell me what was going on. She looked so upset, so I urged her to tell me everything so I could help her. I assured her that I would do anything I could and apologized for turning her down before. That was all it took, and she started crying. She told me that she was sorry for not listening to me before, and that she had made a massive mistake by marrying him. She told me that she knew he had been cheating on her before their wedding, but he always said that they had an open relationship when she never agreed to an open relationship ever. He was gaslighting her into thinking that it was all normal and everyone was doing it. He told her that he would stop once they were married. She told me that she had confided in our parents, but they had shrugged off her concerns like it was nothing. They told her that he was the right man for her. He had money and was a respected member of society, so she had to overlook some things if she wanted a perfect life. She was full-on crying at this point, and my eyes weren't dry either. How could our parents say that to her after she told them that she was being cheated on? That was a horrifying thing to do to your own daughter. She told me that he hadn't stopped cheating and was becoming more and more aggressive with every day that passed. She told me that he took her phone away and kept threatening her. She told me that before she called me that day, she had called our parents and they told her to suck it up and make it work. I couldn't believe my ears. I never thought our parents were those kinds of people. I thought they had been horrible to me only, but this was eye-opening to say the least. I begged her to come with me, but she said that she can't do that right now. She assured me that she was safe and would contact me soon with some sort of plan to get out of this situation. I promised her that I would do anything for her, she just had to ask, and we left it at that. Update 4. A few weeks went by without any contact with my sister, and I was getting anxious with every day that passed. I really wanted to get her out of that situation. It didn't sound like she was safe at all. Her husband knew that he had all the power since our parents weren't helping her, so I didn't trust him not to hurt her. I honestly didn't know what to do, so I called that unknown number a few times, but it was always off. I was counting on my sister to contact me again and let me know that she was okay. Then, after a few more excruciating days, I got a call from my sister. I just knew that something was off. I picked up the call, heard her crying, and went on high alert. I asked her what was going on, but she wasn't making any sense. She was saying a bunch of words in between sobs. At last, I understood when she asked if she could come to my place, and I told her yes immediately. I told her I could pick her up, but she asked me to drop a pin with my address, and she would be there an hour later. I saw her get out of her car in front of my apartment, and I let her inside. She was pretty shaken up, and I wondered if she had contacted Mom and Dad and was turned down again. Eventually, I got her to calm down, and she told me that her husband hit her. I was about to say something when she spoke again. She said that she called our parents for help, but they told her not to screw it up and make her marriage work. They told her that these things happen in a marriage, and I went blind with rage. I was seeing red when she confessed what had happened to her. I was so angry, I was afraid of taking my anger out on her. I didn't want to yell at her or scare her even more, so I told her to take some time and freshen up. I left the room, and it took me a few hours to calm myself down. Eventually, my sister sought me out. She was looking better than before, but still very scared and vulnerable. I asked her to tell me what happened, and she did. She confronted him a couple of days ago about a woman he was seeing, and he lost his temper all of a sudden. She told me that he had never hurt her physically before, so she never expected it. He hit her and told her to stay in her lane. That's when she called our parents, and they refused to help her. She told me that she thought our parents would help her if they knew he would raise a hand to her, but they told her not to involve them in her life. She was sobbing inconsolably by the end of it. I was so hurt on her behalf. She had been suffering too by listening to every one of their demands while I was suffering by defying them. I told her that she didn't have to worry about anything anymore, and that we would deal with it together. That seemed to bring her some relief. First and foremost, we went to the cops and reported her husband. Then we went to our parents' place, and I told them that my sister and I wanted nothing to do with them anymore, and that they should lose our numbers. My sister didn't say anything. She looked like a scared little girl, and I felt for her. Our parents said a lot of things. It took us hours to finally get out of there, but we were both feeling significantly lighter after that. Our parents were and always will be toxic, and cutting them off will be the turning point in both our lives. We got a call from the cops that day informing us that her husband was behind bars. After a few days of her staying with me, I asked her to move in with me, and she agreed. So I guess we will get the shared apartment that we dreamed of after all.